Good morning, good afternoon, good day. It's Roger Roadside here saying hello. Hello. Look, I've been doing a little bit of investigative journalism, right? I've done some research. I've put my nose to the grindstone. I burnt the candles at both ends. I had 15 cups of black coffee. And I was just sort of pulling out a thread, because I was just sort of thinking to myself, with all this talk about the Chagos Islands and all that sort of stuff, something that seemed to, ring alarm bells with me and make me feel like I've heard this before is the sentence, waste of taxpayers' money. And I kind of felt like I've heard that time and time again. That's a waste of taxpayers' money. The Chagos Islands reportedly, anywhere between 3.4 billion to up to 33 billion, I think was the calculations, depending on who's doing the sums. I don't know if Rachel Reeves is involved or maybe Liz Truss, but it could be anything between that sort of amount. If it goes ahead, that's going to cost you and I, the UK taxpayer. And again, it was just a phrase that I feel like I hear with nearly every second or third story. It's going to cost UK taxpayers XYZ. It's going to cost UK taxpayers ABC. So I did a bit of research and I just had a look at some of the failed projects of recent times to have a look at, or things that were deemed to be a waste of taxpayers' money. And look, I only scratched the surface, right? Because old Roger Roadside has got things to do. He's got places to be, people to see, So I only scratched the surface. But here's a couple of the ones that are considered to be an extreme waste of taxpayers' money. The NHS Test and Trace application sunk £37 billion. It cost you and I £37 billion. The Ajax Armoured Vehicles project, whereby I think they were trying to get 50 odd scout vehicles, bulletproof ones, never really got off the ground, but that costs the UK taxpayer 5.5 to 7 billion pounds, so somewhere in between there. Let's call it 6 billion just for funsies. The H2 Phase 2 cancellation. H2 Phase 2, where are you? H2 Phase 2, who are you? H2 Phase 2, what are you? We never see you, but we pay for you. How much do you reckon that costs? That's cost 2.3 billion pounds. The Emergency Services Network, that old chestnut, 400 million pounds. This was one that I didn't know about, but apparently there was a project to build a tunnel underneath Stonehenge, because that makes sense, doesn't it? One of the bloody, I don't know how many, if it is or whatever, but let's just say it's one of the 8 wonders of the world. I'm pretty sure it's not, but let's just say it is, just for this video. But it's a pretty, historic thing. Sure, it makes sense just to build shit underneath it. Sure it does. I'm sure that would never run any risk of any sort of damage or anything to something that's been sat there for bloody centuries. But that Stonehenge tunnel, the A303, that cost 224 million pounds. Various road schemes, the A1 and the A27 road schemes were abandoned, were projects that were initially started, invested in, allocated taxpayers' money, and then just abandoned. And they cost 135 million pounds. you then had I don't know if anyone went to this or saw this, but there was the Festival of Brexit. The Festival of Brexit unboxing, £120 million. Smart motorways. I don't know what that project was. I didn't know motorways were not intelligent, but apparently they are. And someone convinced someone that we needed to have smart ones. So that was a project that was green-lit, allocated taxpayer money, and then abandoned. That was £62 million. And then the old Garden Bridge. Does anyone remember that? In London, there was supposed to be a bridge built that was going to be a garden. It was supposed to be lovely, peaceful, have loads of vegetation. It was going to look lovely. And that was, it was funded by UK taxpayers, and then there was a portion of it that was going to be privately funded, and investors never came. They never came. I don't know why. I mean, if you've invested in something and all you're getting in return for your investment is, some plants on a bridge, I don't know how you get your money back from that, but I can see why they didn't do it. But the UK taxpayer did. They went £43 million into it. They went, here, take all my money. 43 million, yeah, Garden Bridge. Next to the other bridge and the other bridge. I mean, let's put another bridge in there, and we'll put some pot plants on it. And that's a great idea. Take 43 million pounds of my money. I'm a UK taxpayer person. Look, they're just a couple of recent projects, things that have siphoned off UK taxpayer money. There's other notable potential things to add to it. You've got obviously the Chagos Island thing that, if that goes ahead, could cost the UK taxpayer anywhere between £3.4 billion up to I think it's £33 billion. Over 99 years. So it's going to be that cost sort of spread over that time. And then you've also got, things like the settlement payment from Andrew, formerly known as Prince, which there's a bit of conjecture about that 12 million, because apparently it didn't come from taxpayers. It came from releasing equity in, or somehow something to do with the properties. But then there's some people that make the arguments that, the property is funded by UK taxpayers. So essentially, it is money that is the UK taxpayers' money, essentially. So there's a bit of conjecture with that, but you could probably add another 12 million to that's been spunked up the wall. And that's just those examples, my friends. And, look, as an investigative journalist goes, I am nowhere near it. And that's just me, layman, everyday person who spends most of his day just fanging about, talking rubbish. But I've, been able to sort of garner that information together. I'm sure there's, a Titanic-sized iceberg underneath that of wastage of yours and my money. This is why we work. We work so politicians can make the decisions to either line up their mates' construction companies, or conveyancing companies, or whatever the project calls for. I'm sure there's various politicians and government people that know a person that can do the job real good. Just happens to be their mum, or their dad, or their brother, or their second cousin twice removed. And you want a bridge? Oh yeah, bridge. Look, what is a bridge really? It's just a bit of concrete and some steel and stuff. That's going to cost well over £100 million. Oh, that's a good deal. Let's go for it. We'll get £43 million of taxpayer money. Okay, that's already allocated. All right, let's get some other people to chip in. What, you don't want to chip in? You think it's a bit too much for a bridge? There's not really going to be any return. Yeah, but we're going to create access for people to get from one side of the river to the other side, and you could be a part of it for only £60 million. You don't want to do it. All right, let's just leave it. Now keep the 43 mil. Just give that to to Barry. He's my brother. He's my mate. He's the guy that he went to all the work. He drew pictures of the bridge. So we might as well just keep the 43 million from UK taxpayers' money. Let's just keep that. Don't worry. Don't ask for that back. Barry's done a lot of work. He drew all the bloody flowers and stuff, and they're hard to draw. So let's just leave him with the 43 mil. It's that sort of buffoonery, and that sort of foolishness. That is the reason why we're fucked, guys. It's we can blame. There are a ton of things that point towards why we're fucked. The open door immigration, the welfare, I haven't even factored in how much welfare costs us. But anyway, those projects alone that I just mentioned equates to well over £50 billion. Well over that. And that's without the Chagos Islands thing or the, Andrew, formerly known as Prince thing. Well over £50 billion. That's 60 state-of-the-art hospitals, state-of-the-art hospitals. That's 120,000 annual salaries for NHS nurses. When you put that into sort of consideration of what we could have spent that money on, look, it's fair to say that with the NHS track and trace and with the NHS, the PPE, debacle, you could argue that we would have had to have spent money on something, even if it was something that worked. There would have been some sort of money allocated to that. So, that's fair. Look, if the total sum is 50 odd billion, but not all of that is necessarily wasted. But also, bearing in mind, I've merely flicked. I haven't even scratched. I've merely flicked at the surface, and it's also not taking into account our reliance and our heavy-handedness with regards to welfare. So, listen, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the governments are doing a great job in regards to allocating and using all the money that we work hard for, that they just take for doing fuck all? And then, whether you agree with it or not, I believe that they just piss it up the wall, that they just line the pockets of their mates. They just make stupid decisions. They get, they get scammed so much that we can see that they get scammed, but apparently they can't see that they get scammed. So, look, that's my opinion. What's your opinion? Get your comments down below. Would like to hear what you think. Do you think that's good? Over £50 billion just there of taxpayer money that's been pissed royally up a wall. Money that we'll never get back. What are your thoughts on that? Make sure you comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button, because that always helps. And listen, I love you long time. This is Roger Roadside saying ciao for now, and be good to your mum. All right, ciao.